evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kelly Wells Show, where we talk University of Pikeville basketball. Coming to you live from Jerry's Restaurant, South Mayo Trail, Pikeville. Every Tuesday evening we're here, and you're invited to come have dinner with the National Coach of the Year, talk some U-Pike basketball, catch up on last week's action, and take a look ahead. We get a little insight into the scouting report with the Bears program. Joined now by head coach of your University of Pikeville Bears. He's our coach, Kelly Wells. Good evening.
Good evening. It's great to be here. Just rushed off a good practice and ended a good practice session, and the guys are back working on film right now, and I get to come do the good stuff. So they're hard at work, and you and I are just here having a good time.
You miss a half hour or so of film time, but I would imagine you make up for that at other times, don't you?
Regrettably, I do. It's not my most favorite part of coaching is the film breakdown and all the edits, but I do my share, and Coach Rector and Coach Compton and Coach Bowman do a wonderful job with the guys getting prepared video-wise.
I know you've got a great staff, and those guys work just as hard as anyone else in and around the program. A lot of time on the road doing scouting, putting together film, and those type of things. But in a typical week, how much time does Kelly Wells spend on scouting and on film work?
I rely on my guys a lot, and I've been blessed to have good coaches that I trust. And there's been years that I've done nothing but the preparation and the scouting and the edits. And now that I've got guys that I trust to do all of that, not that I didn't before, but these guys are tremendous, and they have the resources to do it. They have the energy to do it, the knowledge to do it, and I really rely on them. I've gotten out of the point where I deal with the edit breakdowns and deal with the scouting and the goals of the game, and let the guys kind of run with it a little bit on their own, and that's why I feel so comfortable with them kind of doing their thing. I'm very, very well aware of everything that we're doing, but I like to let those guys have some freedom, and you know, we have them in our program for a reason. It's because they're good.
Sure. And they all have aspirations to be head coaches someday. And just as you're teaching and training and preparing players for life, you're preparing these guys for life as well, if it would be in head coaching.
Well, you've got to pay it forward. Somebody paid it forward to me.
Sure.
It's my obligation to make sure that I do as best I can to prepare them, and that's not being easy on them, and that's not letting them buy with things. That's preparing them and equipping them for great things, and you've got to have the full gamut. I mean, other than probably the budget side of things, all my guys are involved with every other facet of our program, and they do a marvelous job. Player well-being, all the way down to study halls, to recruiting trips. And recruiting's, they say it's like brushing your teeth. You do it every day and sometimes twice a day, and so we stay on top of that as best we can.
Kelly Wells Show, as we talk U-Pike basketball, and I'm not sure we've ever talked about this. You talked about you've got to pay it forward. Let's talk about someone paying it forward to you, getting you started in coaching, and maybe mentoring you heading to your first head coaching jobs.
I think I'm kind of unique in my evolution as a coach. I mean, I was raised, my dad drugged me to practice,
Sure.
to the women's practices at Moorhead for years, and I swear I've learned to play basketball with the women's team, and just kind of fell in love with basketball just being around him and his personality, and meeting the players is a bonus, traveling on the road, and so I really had a great inside track to coaching. I was a head coach the day I graduated from college at Moorhead and got the job at Marion County High School. And so I was kind of thrown into the fire a little bit, and to say I was ready, there was no chance of that. And it's almost like having children. If you wait till you're ready, you're probably never going to be ready. So we got in there and worked as hard as we could. And you know, I've relied on my dad, who was a college basketball coach. I've relied on my high school coach, Tim Moore, who was a great mentor to me. And then you just pick up things everywhere you've been, and it just kind of makes you who you are. And now my dad won't even give me suggestions. He says I'm too big for him now to fool with him. But that's kind of how you learn. And I'm kind of unique to be able to say that the day I graduated, I walked into a head coaching job. That's really unique.
We talk about some of your players who were coaches' kids and how the basketball intellect is a little higher because they're around it their entire life. You grew up with it. You're one of those typical gym rats that you say your dad drugged you. I got a feeling that you were right there on his heels and wouldn't let him go without you. But being around college basketball, being around coaching that much of your life, is there any other career you ever would have considered?
You know, teaching is one, and I pursued teaching obviously as a high school coach. That's part of it too. You have to be a teacher, and I wasn't one of those guys that stuck my feet up in the air and read the paper. I actually taught a full load every single year. I taught 6 out of 7 classes, and basically had 2 full-time jobs is the way I looked at it.
Right.
And I really got to the point where I really wanted to dedicate myself to coaching basketball and doing that. And you know, athletics is something that's in your blood. Either you love it or you don't. I could see myself someday going into administration and those kind of things. But as far as basketball goes, it's kind of just what I've, was born and bred to do, I think, in a lot of ways.
You say you started out in the classroom and a full schedule there, but as a coach, your gymnasium, your expo center, wherever the case may be, that's your classroom, isn't it?
No question, and that's why we don't close our practices. But if people come to our practices, I really encourage them to be quiet, and watch, because there's just as much, there's equally as good teaching that goes on our courts as there are in our classrooms. And I think you can't be an effective coach if you're not an effective teacher. And I've been blessed to be raised around a mother who taught me great values to share with my players, as well as a father who also taught college courses and learned that there wasn't a shortcut to get better. And we do a lot of teaching in our practice sessions, from learning offensive strategy to defensive strategy to learning the psyche of the game and having what they call basketball IQ. And we're still picking that up, but every day is a teaching moment, and we don't miss those opportunities very often.
Kelly Wells, and it is the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless from Jerry's Restaurant. We talked U Pike basketball, and we'll take a look back at last week and a look ahead. Right now we're getting some great insight into Kelly Wells. And, Coach, one last question about your upbringing, being around your dad and his coaching style. How much is your style like his? What have you brought to your coaching style that you got from your dad?
Well, I think my passion for the game is where I think I got most of that from him. Just being very competitive, obviously, is one of the things I got from him. But I've been blessed also to have great balance with my mother, who is the softest spoken, most caring person in the world. So I feel like I've got the best of both worlds and been able to cradle some of those traits. Not always make the right decision. Sometimes the temper wins over the other. But I've taken a lot from my dad, and I think his hard work and his passion and his just loving what he did every day and never had to work a day in his life because he loved what he was doing is kind of what I've taken from him. And a lot of my coaching also comes from my mother as well, and just being compassionate towards our guys and hugging her neck, and also when you got to step on her toes, you got to step on her toes as well.
You talk about Pikeville basketball being about family, and that's where both mom and dad enter into that equation.
It is, and some of our guys sadly don't have those same circumstances at their homes, and some of those guys weren't raised in that kind of environment, and it's part of our obligation to show them, when they become fathers and when they become husbands, and these are the things that you can offer your folks, and this is probably more valuable than any play or any championships we would ever win is to have valuable young men that come out and become great fathers and great husbands.
It's the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We're talking U Pike basketball, a little insight into Coach Wells and his coaching style and upbringing, and grew up a gym rat. Who would have guessed? But, yeah, I guessed early on. Coach, let's take a look back. And first things first, when we wrapped up last week's show, we talked about Georgetown. Marked it on the calendar. At that time, they were number 12 in the country. You were number 20. You go into a hostile environment, and early in that game, had some foul trouble. Team really seemed to lose itself when Trevor said he picked up his second, went to the bench with a third on the technical foul. But it seemed like the team really hit a spot in that game right there that it couldn't recover from that, couldn't find the right balance.
It was a crucial turning point, no doubt. And to give Georgetown a ton of credit, I'm not sure what we would have done would have made a whole lot of difference because they were on their A game, A-plus game. And, Trevor at that point of the game was the only one really producing any offense whatsoever for us. And for him to get his second foul and then make a mistake that regrettably we would like to have back, getting a technical foul, then putting him on the bench for 8 straight minutes to close the half down. And, when you have one scoring option and that one scoring option's out, it really puts a lot of pressure on your defense and rebounding. And they made a run at us to finish the half, but we had opportunities in the second. I can vividly remember we were down 8. Josh Whitaker had a wide open three on the left-hand side. It bounces over to Trevor, who has a wide open three on the right-hand side, and we missed both of those to cut it to 5, which could have changed the complexion of the game. But instead of it going to 5, it stayed at 8. They went down, scored again, got a stop, scored again, and took it to double figures. And I guess, as they say, the rest was history at that point.
23 games in, and I'm not sure there is a handful of times that Trevor or Josh have had open threes that they didn't hit those. Less than a handful, I believe, in those number of games.
Yeah, and give Georgetown credit. They put a lot of pressure on us. They made us really think on every possession. They were very well prepared. Their crowd was outrageously good and crossed the line a few times, but they were into it. There was a great environment there, and that put a lot of pressure on our team. And we didn't respond completely the way we wanted to. It wasn't a matter of effort. I thought our guys tried. Just that night, on that occasion, we got outplayed.
Yeah, shooting not great that night. Another point that comes to mind, Andrew Young. We talked about his mid-range jumper that night. I can recall 5 different occasions he had shots go down in the basket and come out. Sometimes those nights just happen.
We shot 10% from the three and a little bit under 30 from the field, and he had shots that he's made, and I felt sorry for him. They were good shots. They would rattle in, and it almost looked like this ball tried to go in that cup holder right there. It just was not going to fit in for him that night. And Chris McHenry had an off night. Trevor had a lot of pressure on him, and we didn't get a lot of interior scoring. So it's tough it's human nature not to play great defense and rebound when you're not scoring the ball. And we were certainly a victim of human nature for sure.
It's the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We're going to step out and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a positive from last week, and that's Shawnee State University, a road win for the Bears. We'll talk about that, the latest rankings, and still to come. This week's lineup, we'll get a scouting report from the coach. Welcome back to the Kelly Wells Show, live from Jerry's Restaurant. And you're invited to join the coach and myself as we talk U-Pike basketball every Tuesday evening. By the way, U-Pike students and staff, you've got the discount here at Jerry's as well. You don't want to forget that. We talked U-Pike basketball, and we wrap up last week, and we wrap it up on a positive note. Shawnee State University on Saturday in Portsmouth, and coach coming off a tough loss to Georgetown, worst loss of the year against the Tigers in the Mid-South Conference. Knowing the importance of those games, you go to Shawnee. What kind of concerns did you have with how your team would respond?
Well, we've been a little bit of that Jekyll and Hyde at times. I hate to admit that,
Sure.
but we've had some of that. And one of the things that I felt good about is normally if we have a bad performance, even a practice, the next day is usually really good. And I just try to stress to our guys, you've got to have a short memory. When these kind of things happen, none of us like them, none of us are going to accept them or approve of them, but you have to have a short memory and you got to move on to the next one. And when you play Thursday, Saturday, you've got zero time to pout and sulk or to celebrate in that matter. And our guys came really dialed in practice on Friday. They had a great workout. We made the trip down, and it wasn't really, it was kind of a strange feeling from our guys. We weren't real emotional, we weren't real loud, but I could tell they were dialed in to what we wanted to get done. And really, to be frank, it should have been a 30-point win for us, and we ended up shooting 11 for 25 down the stretch, free throw shooting. They hit 4 threes under the last 2 minutes when we kind of conceded a little bit, and so I was very disappointed in the close of the game. But I thought we did some really good things.
It's been an issue at times this year, being able to close strong, and the free throw shooting has been horrendous from an outsider's viewpoint, looking at the stat sheets, watching as the games take place. How concerned are you with that heading down the stretch, heading toward tournament time?
Well, I'm concerned. Anytime that you put a guy at the free throw line, it's, as a player, I used to embrace and love that opportunity to get 2 free shots. And we're a 71% free throw shooting team, even as poorly as some of the nights we've had. So it tells you that we've had nights we've been in the high 80s. Right. And that's really who we are. We're a 70-plus shooting free throw team. But some nights we just it just turns on you, and you just get the wrong chemistry at the line. But, I mean, even like Trevor said, he's went through droughts this year where he's a career 80% free throw shooter. But it's just something that if you're dialed in completely and you concentrate, those are shots that you should make. So am I concerned about it? In some ways, but at the same time, I don't lose sleep over it either.
It becomes a mental game at some point from the free throw stripe, doesn't it? Especially when your team, they're a good free throw shooting team, but you see a couple of misses, and you can almost read the players' faces that it's going to be one of those nights.
It would, no doubt, and it's sadly I've seen that face several times, and I know when it's coming, and I try to do some things to build the confidence. And as a coach, you have to be a confidence builder, not a confidence taker. And I think for the most part our guys understand, what they're doing wrong. It's just to get it carried out all the time. Sure. It's a little bit frustrating, but I think our guys they understand what we've got to do to win games and maybe get a little relaxed if we get a lead, which you can't do. But again, and we keep harping on this. We got a lot of new faces in there, and if you look at Georgetown, when Trevor went out, we played nothing but new faces the entire first half. So it's getting better, but we got to close out games better.
Indeed. We wrap up last week. We take a look at this week's rankings. The top 25 come out Monday evening in a shake-up. Number 1 at the top, Robert Morris takes over the top spot after a loss by Shorter and a shake-up of the Mid-South Conference teams. Lindsey Wilson last week at number 8, Georgetown at 12. Those two trade spots after the week, and you fall 2 spots in spite of going 1-1. You pleased with where the rankings shook out this week?
I was most pleased that we had 5 teams in the top 35.
Sure.
I think as a Raider that was important for me, and yes, selfishly I want us to do as well as we can do, but it's also my job as a Raider to get as many of our teams recognition as I possibly can and spend a lot of time Monday pleading cases for some of our other teams in our league. Georgetown's taking care of business, obviously, if they're 2-0 this week. Lindsey has lost 3 in a row, but they've lost 2 in a row to the last-second shots, one at our place, and Matt Daniels hit one on them at home. So they're still playing good basketball. It could have went either way. So I put them as second, and we're right there, half a game behind them and in a good position. Just we can earn our way into where we want to be, and that's what I told our guys. That's been our quote for the week is, don't stand wishing for something you have the right to earn, and we want to earn that spot. But it's still tough. To say I'm pleased, no, because I want to be number 1. So sure. I'm not pleased with where we're at. But I think fairly we're rated where we probably belong right now.
Georgetown atop the standings currently 9-3, top team in the Mid-South Conference. Do you feel like they'll have more than 3 losses when we get to the tournament?
I think so, but mentality-wise, all we can worry about is the Bears, and we've got to take care of what we're doing. And I think our guys, I don't know if it's just a lack of concern about it or what. They don't really get hung up on it. This has really been a strange group. It really doesn't pay attention to the ratings and the rankings. Maybe they feel more comfortable knowing that I have some dealings in it or what. But I still think there's some upsets and some changes going to happen.
Taking a look at the rankings, Georgetown, Lindsey Wilson at number 12, U-Pike at number 22, and then Cumberland's receiving votes this week, and Campbellsville and St. Catherine both as well. That's 6 teams from the Mid-South Conference receiving votes in this week's rankings. How long can that stick?
Well, it should stick every year.
Sure.
It's not going to.
We know that.
Yeah, it's not going to. But you got a team like Campbellsville who's had some great non-conference wins. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've beat some great teams out of conference. They started very slow in the conference. But their overall record 16-7, 16-8, somewhere in that area. Will probably be the second team to have an opportunity to win 20 games in the order of things go unless things fall apart. So I mean, they're a 16, and so they have credibility, and they're 5-6 in the league. Right. Still have opportunities to slide up the scale. Very, very good team. And then you look at St. Catherine's, whose record is 11-11 overall, or 10-10 overall. They're 500, but they're sneaking up in the they've won the right games, which are conference games. They've lost a bunch of bad games, but again, they're a quality ball team. It's very athletic, and you look at Cumberland's, who's won 3 in a row, trying to get a little bit better, winning the close game, where now Lindsey's kind of losing the close game. Right. It's as a Raider, it's a mess. But at the end of the day, it's a national ranking. It's not what's in our conference, and right. I try to do what's best for our league nationally. And at night, I sleep well because I know I'm going to do the best, fairest job I can do with it.
No doubt. Coach Kelly Wells, it is the Kelly Wells Show. We talk University of Pikeville basketball. We'll step out. When we come back, we take a look at the scouting reports for this week. Coming up, Campbellsville and St. Catherine on the road. It's U-Pike basketball, the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We're right back right after this. Welcome back in. The Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless, where we talk University of Pikeville basketball all in, and the Bears on their way to the Mid-South Conference Tournament. It's only a couple of weeks away, and Coach Kelly, as we talk about national rankings, 6 teams from the Mid-South Conference receiving votes. The standings, they're top heavy. You've got a lot of great basketball on the way. Should make for a great Mid-South Conference tournament.
No doubt. It's, we look every Monday after we complete a week, and you're like, man, another big week. And then next Monday rolls around, another big week, and then it just continues on. And, there's nobody in our league that can't beat someone else. Right. I mean, you look at the last team in our league with Ryle and Shawnee, both of them have upset people high up on the chart. So it should make for an interesting tournament. Hopefully it'll be interesting enough for us because we win the thing. That's why we hope it's interesting.
And, of course, the regular season standings, they affect seeding going into the tournament. How important is that looking down the road?
It's important because it's so top-heavy that you want to try to get as close to the top as you can so you're not playing those middle teams who are all good. And there's not going to be any night that you say, boy, I want to play that team because there's just no options for us to do that. But in retrospect, you want to try to be as high a seed as you can because statistically there's teams that are going in with confidence, with things to play for, and then there's other teams that are going in there just to go in there. And you want to be a part of the teams playing for something.
No doubt. Coming up this week, tough road stretch before you get back to the Expo Center. Thursday night at Campbellsville. Already you've talked about some of the quality wins they have this season. This is a good basketball team that we've seen, and a battle here at the Expo Center. I would expect nothing different at Campbellsville. Give us a little scouting report on how they're playing lately.
Well, they got off to a very good start in the league or in the season. Then they had a dip in the beginning of conference, and now they're back to playing extremely good basketball. I don't know exactly what contributed to their ups and downs, but they're playing very good. They've probably got arguably the best point guard in the league. Henderson is one of the best players around. He's very, very quick. He's very strong. He's very good defensively. Leads the country in steals and assists. So he's good on both ends of the floor.
Sure.
Our 1-3-1 really gave him some problems the last time, but it was really the first time we'd shown that to anybody too. And it's not going to be, hey, we've got a surprise for you now. They're going to kind of know what we're trying to do. And we've got to do a good job of keeping him on the perimeter. And Justin Enos, their shooter, is just lights out when he gets open. We did a good job of covering him up, but he can go at home, especially can go for big nights. He had a big night against Georgetown the night they beat them. Reggie Smith is another good perimeter for them. Their interior game is probably not as advanced as their perimeter game, but their perimeter game is good enough to where their inside game doesn't have to be as advanced. So he's got them very tough. They play very good, hard man-to-man defense in a half court. Sometimes they'll pick up with some one-man pressure. But he does, Keith does a great job. He's a good friend of mine off the court, and we battle when we're on, but he does a great job, and his teams are going to be great. It's a Thursday game, so the crowd will be there. Yeah. They'll be rocking. They'll be waiting for us to come in the building, and we'll have to be prepared.
We talk about the importance of these games for your team, but you look at Campbellsville, who sits 5-6 in the conference right now. This game may be even bigger for them if they want to advance in the standings.
In some ways, it's critical for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not life or death. There's still some games to be played yet, but it's a very critical game, and they'll be ready. I mean, there's no question about it. But the last I checked, their goals are 10 feet high, and their court's 94 feet, and we should play just as well on the road as we play at home, and that depends on our mental toughness, and we've got to show some of that.
When you know Campbellsville's coming in with that type of game that they need to win this game as much or more so than you, does it help in preparing your players that they're going to come at them with everything they've got?
Gosh, I don't know, Andrew. This bunch has been a strange animal. In a normal year, yes. These guys are just a little bit quirky and a little bit different. They're hard to get an absolute read on. I hope we learn from the Georgetown game the importance of coming out with a team that's very hungry with a lot at stake, a lot to play, and when you're not 100% ready, what could happen to you. And I think logically they should have that in their mind somewhere to know that if you're not prepared to play against a team that's very hungry, you're going to get beat. But we have been pretty resilient for the most part. So I think our guys, boy, I love that. But I think our guys will be zoned in and understand that regardless of how many times we tell them.
See, your children are still young. I've experienced teenagers and 20-somethings already. That Jekyll and Hyde, it comes with the territory. This is your first run at teenagers and 20-somethings.
There were several times in the Shawnee State game I would look at some of our bench players and I say, you guys are literally going to kill me. I mean, you're literally trying to kill me. And some nights it seems like dog years trying to get through it. But at the most difficult times, you also see some of the greatest progress. And that's when you have the greatest opportunity of growth. And we're going to keep teaching. We're going to keep trying to do the best things we can do. Now, they'll respond some, they won't respond some. But we are getting that 1% better every day. With it minus the Georgetown game, we've gotten that 1% better every time we've come out on the floor. And that's growth, and that's what you want to see.
Just think of it this way. When your kids get to be this age, parenting will be a piece of cake. You've already been through that.
There's no piece of cake about this or that, either one, I can assure you.
It's the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We're talking Pikeville basketball, Campbellsville Thursday, and then Saturday on the road to St. Catherine, Springfield, Kentucky. Tough place to play, tough environment, and this is a tough team, very physical, athletic team. They've been a little Jekyll and Hyde themselves, but how have they played lately?
Well, they've got some head scratchers. You look at their team and you look at their personnel. They actually got another kid eligible just a couple weeks ago, and there's some head scratchers of why they lost some games. I mean, they are undoubtedly the most talented team in our league, maybe in the country, talent-wise. And as we know, talent doesn't guarantee you anything, but they are very talented. We had them down 11 at our place here. Probably the most disappointing loss of the season for me was letting them come back and steal that game at home against us that they had no business winning. We should have won that and closed it out and finished it, and that was kind of the start of the guessing at the end of the game what we're going to do. But very talented. It's a small gym, 4 rows, 5 rows of bleachers on each end. Their students will be there. It's a Saturday game, so most of their students will be gone, but some of them will be there. It doesn't take a whole lot to fill that place up, and we'll dress in a classroom, and it won't be the greatest accommodations, but nonetheless, you have to be mentally tough to go in there. You have to be mentally tough to win there, and we haven't done that in a while. It's been 2 years since we went over there and won, and it's not going to be an easy task, but our guys will be up to it. I think we understand the significance of that game as well.
Playing Campbellsville on Thursday, having Friday, already staying in the area, being able to focus almost wholly on basketball, does that help prepare for a St. Catherine game on the road?
In theory, it does. Sometimes I think we can out-coach ourselves. I think sometimes we can out-think ourselves, and I try to keep the KISS method in there, keep it simple, stupid, and try to keep routine as best we can, even being on the road. Our guys understand what it takes to be successful. They know. They also know what makes us not successful, and that's the thing. We've got to bridge that gap of understanding of the things that make us good and staying away from the things that don't make us good. And it took us a while last year even to get that figured out, and our guys are slowly approaching to the point where they understand it, and at this point of the year you'll either understand it now or it's too late. So I keep telling them every day, I can't change that. It's February. I can't walk you through this. I can't not trust you here. It's February. We've got to be at our best, and we'll find out. We're under some pressure cookers on the road at Campbellsville and St. Catharines.
Is this team where you want it to be as far as peaking for tournament time?
I think we're playing as well as we've played all year. I don't think we're peaking yet, and it's getting close to that time you want to make sure that you are. But we are playing better. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think we've every night gotten better, minus the Georgetown game, and that had a lot to do with them. I thought they were great that night. But we'll continue to progress. Practices have continued to get better. We've shortened our time on them. They like that a little bit more. I'm not necessarily a fan of that, but I think it's the right thing to do at this point of the year.
Right.
But we know what our game plan is. We know our strategy. We've tried to keep it as simple as we can, and we're going to keep improving. We're going to keep working, and we've got 5 more regular season games, and then we've got hopefully 3 more conference games, and then we've hopefully got 6 more national tournament games, and that's kind of the plan of action for us, and that's our goals.
That's what I've got on my schedule, about 14 more dates.
I pack for the long haul every time I go on a trip. It's
the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We talk University of Pikeville basketball. Coach, Campbellsville on the road Thursday night. Our coverage begins at 7:40 on Z-Rock. We look for a win against the Tigers and St. Catherine Saturday. Next Tuesday, let's talk about 2 wins.
I'd love to, and it's going to be tough on us, but at the same time, anything worthwhile having is going to be tough. It's easy, everybody do it. So we understand the significance of these 2 games. We're going to try to take them one by one. We don't want to split. We want to win 2 games, and that's the mentality we've got. We have to have that mentality, and down the stretch, here we come. So hopefully we'll be at our best.
Coach, best of luck to you and the Bears coming up this week, and for all of us Bear fans, broadcasters, and those here, we're all in.
Appreciate it. We want to send a little shout out to John Beery, who just got back from the Cleveland Clinic and had some tough surgery to try to repair some things with his health. And he's back home, I think, as of today. Was leaving early this morning from Cleveland Clinic. So let's keep John in our prayers and get him back on the sideline. I miss him being there.
JB, he's a long part of the Pikeville basketball program. We wish him the best very soon. It's the Coach Kelly Wells Show. We talk University of Pikeville basketball. We'll be back next Tuesday evening, and we'll be talking about a couple of Bears wins. We're looking for wins over Campbellsville Thursday night. Coverage on Z-Rock beginning at 7:40. Saturday afternoon at St. Catherine. Coverage on Z-Rock. Online at 1075zrock.com beginning at 3:40 and on the air. Thanks so much, and tuning again to Z-Rock 1075 and Pike TV. You've been tuned to the Kelly Wells Show.